all going down on Tyrone Bowman Live. One time then, everybody, welcome to the program on tonight. I'm your host, Tyrone Bowman. Well, after a lengthy break, I'm back with what I call a brand new segment on the program, Blockbuster Topics. On this channel, I strive to be creative and different at the same time with the information that I'm bringing before the cameras. It's been a long week, ladies and gentlemen. Please take care of yourselves out there. Don't forget about our brothers and sisters down in Cuba, Jamaica, Barbados, and the islands, individuals who are still really suffering from Hurricane Melissa. So I'm going to get started on tonight. I'll probably have to take a break around the top of the hour, a short one, then I'll be back. This is called Blockbuster Topics. And Blockbuster Topics consist of I'm pulling different topics from around the country from different news outlets and agencies and publications. And I'm going to talk about them over here. Well, the first one is from People magazine. The headline reads, King Charles strips Prince Andrew of all royal titles and privileges. He's now Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor. So King Charles's younger brother is no longer a prince or the Duke of York, a title he has held since 1996. So what's going on here with this article? Let's find out. King Charles is officially, well, first of all, this article for People magazine was written by Stephanie Petite and Simon Perry. Make sure you get your props there. King Charles is officially removing all titles, including Prince from his brother Andrew. The former Prince Andrew, who is 65, will no longer be known as a Prince of His Royal Highness, among other titles, Buckingham Palace announced on Thursday. Instead, he will be Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor. Quote, His Majesty has today initiated a formal process to remove the style, titles, and honors of Prince Andrew, end quote. The palace said in the statement, Prince Andrew will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor, quote, close quote. Andrew was a prince and had the styling of His Royal Highness since birth as the son of then reigning monarch, Queen Elizabeth. He was given the title of Duke of York, what he was widely known as well as Earl of Inverness and Baron Kelly League by his late mother on his wedding day to Sarah Ferguson in 1986. The honors affected are Andrew's Order of the Garter and Knight Grand Cross of the Victorian Order. In addition, Andrew will be losing his living arrangements at Royal Lodge in Windsor. Quote, his lease on Royal Lodge has to date provided him with legal protection to continue in residence. Formal notice has now been served to surrender the lease. He will move to alternative private accommodation. These censures are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact that he continues to deny the allegations against him. Close quote, the palace stated. What is going on over there? Said he continues to deny the allegations against him. Their Majesties wish to make clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors of any and all forms of abuse. Quote, close quote, the statement concluded. It was King Charles's decision to remove Andrew's titles and honors, and he is using his royal prerogative, which allows him to manage certain royal titles and honors without involving Parliament. Although Andrew denies accusations against him, there have been serious lapses of judgment that led to the move, which has the support of the royal family, including Prince William. The last time a member of the British royal family was formally stripped of a title was with Prince Ernest Augustus, Duke of Cumberland and Tividale, a German-born British prince of the Titles Deprivation Act in 1970, when his British titles were removed after he swore allegiance to Germany during World War II. When Andrew's great-uncle King Edward VIII abducted the throne in December 1936, he was not formally stripped of his royal titles. Instead, his brother King George the Sixth granted him the title Duke of Windsor. So this is pretty serious coming from the royal palace there. As daughters of the son of a sovereign, Andrew's children, and I want to name them, they will retain their titles in line with King George's the Fourth's letters patent of 1917. So the news comes after Andrew announced on Friday, October 17, that he would give up the use of his royal titles and other titles and honors amid renewed interest in his relationship to Epstein, who died in jail in 2019 while awaiting trial on federal conspiracy and sex trafficking charges. However, he retained the titles at the time and was still known as Prince Andrew. Andrew stepped back from his public royal role in 2019 following his headline-making BBC interview in which he discussed his relationship with Epstein. Scrutiny has intensified in recent weeks after the posthumous memoir of Epstein victim Virginia Godfrey, who died by suicide, God rest her soul, on April 4th. In the book, she wrote that Andrew, quote, believed having sex with me was his birthright, end quote, describing 3 occasions Epstein allegedly arranged for her to meet him beginning at age 17. So Prince Andrew, as it was then known, has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing. Queen Elizabeth stripped her son of his military titles and patronages in January of 2022 after a judge rejected his attempt to have Godfrey's sexual assault lawsuit against him dismissed. And he settled with her out of court for an undisclosed sum. You know what bothers me about this? If you haven't done anything wrong, why would you even settle in court? You know, the late Michael Jackson said the biggest mistake that he ever made was settling in that first case. He said he never wanted to settle, but his lawyers pressured him to settle. And it turns out that that was a lie. So here we are dealing with this now. This comes from the Christian. Pardon me, ladies and gentlemen. I got to make sure that my thing is off. All right. Let's get back here. Sorry, my apologies. Now, this is coming from the Christian Science Monitor, this next article. Food benefits are ending for millions in U.S. Who is affected and who is offering help? So this article was written for the Christian Science Monitor by Troy Adian, Sabaljan, who's a staff writer, and Jacob Turcati, the graphics designer. Let's get right down to this story. On Saturday, the program that helps feed some 42 million Americans is set to run out of money. President Donald Trump's administration says there's no funding to continue the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP or as food stamps. The news comes amid rising food prices and reports from food banks that they are already struggling to meet increased demand. More than 24 states filed suit Tuesday against the federal government, saying the U.S. Department of Agriculture, or the USDA, which runs SNAP, is suspending benefits despite having some resources available to help. Earlier this month, the USDA confirmed that $5 billion in contingency funds will not be tapped, and that benefits will be suspended from November 1 until the shutdown ends. Well, let's talk about this real quick. So the U.S. government shutdown is affecting funding for a food assistance program used by nearly 42 million Americans with benefits to end Saturday. What is the point? The point is simple. Punish the people because the Democrats won't do what the Republicans want them to do. This is political football, ladies and gentlemen. It's political mind games. That's all this is about. And they're going to continue to keep the government shut until they get what they want from the Democrats. They want the Democrats to cave in. So we are in for a prolonged governmental shutdown. And the Democrats said they're going to hold the line. They're not caving in. They're not going to agree with the Republicans to strip over 40 plus million Americans from health care, Medicaid, and SNAP benefits. So they're not going to do it. So this may continue into the midterm elections. And if it continues going into the midterm elections, the Republicans will pay the price. Of course, they say that the Democrats are paying the price because they are doing everything they can to help the public. Well, we know that's not true. Because when they signed the BBB into law, that affected millions and millions of people. In 2024, each person on SNAP received about $187 per month in benefits. Without that, people across America will have to find a way to obtain groceries and basic necessities. Almost two-thirds of them are in families with children, and more than 1 in 3 are in families with members who are older adults or are disabled, according to the Progressive Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. I just finished concluding the video. Over 10,000 people watched it. Check it out. I gave you a statistical state-by-state analysis and breakdown of who is affected and what states are doing so. I'm not going to go through that all over again. It's really, really serious here. So experts say that rural Americans, many in areas that voted for Trump, will be hit the hardest first. In a guest essay published Tuesday in the New York Times, Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri, a Republican, called on Congress to pass his bill that would keep SNAP benefits flowing during the shutdown. He called their expected cutoff on Saturday, quote, a grim milestone, end quote. In previous administrations, SNAP had always been seen as a bipartisan priority. Those days are gone. There is no more bipartisanship in politics. They're finished. There is no way to sugarcoat it. Pretty quickly, as early as late next week, we're going to start seeing evidence of real distress out there, says Christopher Bolso, a professor of public policy and political science at Northwestern University, quote, close quote. We've never cut off SNAP benefits in 60 years of the program. This is the first time in history that we're going to basically shut off food support as supplemental assistance to low-income Americans who need it. That says a lot. Quote, close quote, he says. So it's going to get real serious. A lot of people are going to be hurt. They're going to be affected. And they're going to be angry. They're going to be bitter. And as a result of that, when the midterm elections come up, people are not going to pay them any mind. So from Reuters news agency, the headline reads in an article written by Nate Raymond, U.S. judge is skeptical Trump administration can legally suspend food benefits. So basic summary, Democratic-led states asked the judge to block SNAP benefits from being cut off. The USDA says it will not use contingency funds for food aid states, and states seek ruling before Saturday. A federal judge in Boston on Thursday, which was today, said it appeared to her that President Donald Trump's administration not legally suspend all food aid for millions of Americans amid the ongoing government shutdown, as it plans to do starting Saturday. U.S. District Judge Indria Tawani said she planned to decide later on Thursday whether she shall force the U.S. Department of Agriculture to use some of the $5.25 billion in contingency funds as it has on hand to pay for SNAP benefits. Lawyers for 25 Democratic-led states and the District of Columbia, during an hour-long hearing, asked the judge to issue a temporary restraining order that would ensure the government at least partial funds the SNAP benefits with helps 42 million Americans to rely upon. The USDA has said insufficient funds exist to pay full benefits, which cost $8.5 billion to $9 billion per month. Let me ask you a question. Why is it that they have money for everything else in this nation? And a judge who is an appointee of Democratic President Barack Obama questioned how the administration came to conclude it could pay out nothing at all when Congress provided the USDA with contingency funds it still has available in case of an emergency. In the next article, these are basically headlines I'm hitting here. I don't want to get too deep, I don't want to get too deep in them. And this is probably one of the main reasons why a lot of people are fed up with politics. It discourages them from voting. They don't want to be bothered. All right, if you're interested in the Sean Diddy Combs' case, well, he's being transferred to federal prison, according to an article by Chloe Malice and Tim Stola for NBC News. Sean Diddy Combs is being transferred from a Brooklyn jail to a federal prison, a source close to the disgraced music mogul said Thursday. It wasn't immediately clear when Combs was 55 is being moved to or where. Representatives for Combs did not immediately respond to a request for comment as of Thursday afternoon. An inmate locator showed that Combs is still housed at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, but that entry is likely to change early Friday morning, according to another source familiar with Combs' legal matter. After an 8-week trial, Combs was acquitted of the more serious charges of racketeering and sex trafficking. He pleaded not guilty and has maintained his innocence. However, he was found guilty on the Mann Act, which prohibits traveling across state lines to engage in prostitution as, quote, unfair, end quote. He spent more than a year behind bars, and his expected date of release would be 2028 of May. Now, what's ironic is his team reached out to the Trump administration for a pardon, and that will not be forthcoming. There'll be no pardon for Trump. Wow. There's a lot going on, y'all. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going down. We have the 2028 upcoming election, and people are already preparing. I don't know if I want to do this one or not. I might have to make this one a separate video because this is. That one's really deep. I don't want to get into that one. How about this? A Chinese company, they are pumping out fentanyl. President Donald Trump pressed Chinese President Xi Jinping for a crackdown on the flow of fentanyl at a meeting. And this comes from ABC News, written by Janice Mackey Fryer and Alexander Smith. Yangcheng, China. Behind a large glass wall, a worker in full protective gear watches as hundreds of tiny glass bottles whiz by every minute, sterilized, filled, and packaged by a battle of robotic arms, or ballet of robotic arms. The robots are being used. Inside each ampile is the substance at the heart of the geopolitical strife between the United States and China, fentanyl, the deadly opioid at the center of a deal outlined by Presidents Donald Trump and Xi Jinping today. On Thursday, NBC News got exclusive access to the headquarters of Jicheng Human Well Pharmaceutical, the largest producer of the drug in China and indeed Asia, at its sprawling complex in the central city of Jicheng. Human Well says that it only supplies fentanyl for use in hospitals and that it does not export any medication to the United States, Mexico, or Canada. In 51 years of operating, quote, we have never had a single incident of a drug going missing. Not a single dose has ever been lost, end quote. Its president, Drew Wintayo, said in the interview inside his factory, which is surrounded by high fences wrapped in concertina wire and electric sensors. Let me get this straight. You got a factory pumping out fentanyl. Is that what they're trying to tell us? And it's okay for them to make it. But it's only being used in hospitals. I don't believe a word of it. Human Well says it only supplies fentanyl for use in hospitals. So, Human Well is one of only 5 companies in China licensed to produce fentanyl for use in hospitals, and it makes around 100 million doses of fentanyl variants each year. After a strict registration process to get past the main gate, all visitors and staff alike, including the CEO, are required to wear blue hospital caps, shoe covers, and lab coats to ensure they do not contaminate the workspace. Most of the production line is automated to limit human contact. With the vials being washed and sterilized and filled with fentanyl using long rubber tubes. 2 staffers in protective gear supervised the process with an alarm pinging every 10 minutes to remind them to spray their gloved hands with disinfectant. The vials are then inspected using flashes of light, stamped, boxed up, and shipped out via a warehouse. Fentanyl. Here's a picture of, well, can't really see it that well, but there's a little picture of them inside the fentanyl company. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I must take a quick break. Tyrone Bowman live. Blockbuster topics. I'll be right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being patient. Tyrone Bowman live. Let's get back to this story. I'm talking about blockbuster topics tonight. So, President Trump, I'm talking about China with their fentanyl corporation. President Trump pressed Ying for a crackdown on fentanyl at a meeting in South Korea today. The last stop of his three-country Asian tour, the president said he will reduce his fentanyl tariff on China to 10% from 20%, effective immediately. After Ying agreed to intensify China's efforts to stem the illicit international flow of precursor chemicals for the deadly opioid. Didn't I tell you all not so long ago? These leaders, these billionaire leaders of these nations and billionaire CEOs of corporations, the disagreements and spats and arguments that they have is entirely different from what everyday people deal with. They will sit down later on after they cussed each other out and damned each other to hell and every place else and ratify contracts and come up with agreements, shake hands and walk out. Everybody is making millions and billions of dollars at the misery of everyday people. Meanwhile, they got everybody upset, fighting and cussing, laying each other out over politics, race, and differentiations of cultures and ethnicities and everything else, while they are going laughing all the way to the bank. When are people going to wake up and understand what's really going on? Pay attention. Don't pay attention to what you see before the camera. Pay attention to the power that's behind the throne. Pay attention to the power that's behind the politics. Pay attention to the money suppliers who dictate policy and everything else. So American officials say the Chinese government hasn't done enough to stem the illicit international flow of precursor chemicals for fentanyl, which are then processed into the highly addictive opioid in Mexican labs and smuggled across the border to the United States, though deaths appear declining in the U.S. Really? Fentanyl and other synthetic opioids have killed hundreds of thousands of Americans in recent years, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Well, from what I see, I come in contact with people every day in my city. And it's not pretty with what I see. People are hooked. They are addicted. Many times they can't get free. Here's something you might want to consider. The best thinning hair shampoos and treatments that actually make a difference. And this is according to NBC News, an article written by Christiana Colisa and Molly Godayo. Nothing of the headline says, thinning hair, don't panic. Here's how to treat it. Nothing causes dread like glancing at the drain to see how much hair you've lost while showering. Though it's normal for hair thickness and quantity to change over time, the period might shed anywhere from 50 to 100 strands per day. Sudden hair loss can't single any underlying medical condition, regardless of the reason behind it. Pattern hair loss is not pleasant for anyone and can cause significant psychological distress to those experiencing it. Those experts say pattern hair loss can be attributed to genetics. Some products can stimulate growth and work to prevent hair loss in the future. But before you buy some, quote, magic, end quote, elixir in a moment of panic, it's crucial to identify what is causing your hair loss in the first place. According to the article, we talked to dermatologists and trichologists about what causes thinning hair and hair loss, as well as the best ingredients to combat thinning hair. We also compiled expert recommended hair thickening shampoos, treatments, and more, plus highly rated products with dermatologist approved hair thickening formulas. All right. Here's a list of them here. I'm going to go down the list. Try to make it bigger so I can see. Okay. Noxin Scalp plus hair thickening system, which runs about $55 through Amazon. Let's see if I can get it up on the screen. Nope, I can't get it up. Oh, there it is. That's the first one. All right, let me push this one down. The second one is the editor's pick. It's Vegamore Grow Hair Serum, $64. Let's bring that one up. So this is supposed to be an all-natural one, free of any synthetic drugs, by Sephora. The third one is, this one has been out forever, Rogaine. How much is Rogaine? Basically $49, says $49.70 through Amazon. Let's put that up on the screen. This is sold in stores everywhere. You can also buy it online. All right, best hair growth system, Bosley Medical Revive, volumizing system, $47.95. Oh boy, Bosley must be getting desperate because they only had closed door sessions for a while. What's this one called? Revitalash Thickening Hair Shampoo for $38 through Amazon. I mean, this might not be for everybody, but it might be for someone. You know, that's why people got to stop getting so uptight about stuff. Trying to help people in this world. So here's a Nutrafol Root Purifier Shampoo for scalp health. Sells for $44. Let me enlarge it so a person can see it if they want to look at it. What else do they have? Verb Density Peptitude Scalp Serum for $22 by Sephora. Let me blow that one up. Next on the list, this is probably going to be the last Blockbuster topic I'm going to do. Revital Lash Cosmetic Enhancing Foam. That one, wow. Through Amazon, it sells for $152. Should have been on about 30 minutes already. Okay, this is called All Naturals Argan Oil and Carotene Shampoo. Sells for $12.95 plus tax probably. According to the article, it says how we pick the best thinning hair shampoos and treatments. The best treatment for thinning hair depends on the cause of that hair loss. Quote, tropical serums and targeted shampoos may not be enough to thicken hair and curb hair loss completely, end quote, says board-certified NYC cosmetic dermatologist Dr. Michael Green. Quote, often patients will need a combination of tropical products, oral medications, minoxidil, and I can't pronounce all the others, and I'm not going to try, to treat hair thinning hair effectively. So if your goal is to make your hair look thicker, and want products that pair well with medications and in-office treatments, experts recommend keep the following in mind. Consider the ingredients that promote hair growth. Look at the ingredients that keep hair healthy. That's one of the best ways to do it. So they recommend that the best overall kit is Noxin Scalp plus hair thickening system. So you can get it at Amazon for $55 or at Ultra. So they put that one down at the bottom, as you can see. So they want people to really see that one. So on this channel, you get some of everything on Tyrone Bowman Live. You know, I try to cover as much news that I possibly can. I'm trying to bring people into a different state of mind to get them away from everything else that's happening and going on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this segment. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for your comments. Never surrender. Never quit.